Yesterday's body count lottery rounded out to a solid and sturdy 30. 10 out of Haywood, thanks to unabated gang wars. One officer down, so I guess you're all screwed, cause the NCPD will not let that go. Got another blackout in Santo Domingo. Netrunners are at it again, poking holes in the power grid. While over in Westbrook, trauma teams scraping cyber psycho victims off the pavement. And in Pacifica, well, Pacifica is still Pacifica. This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our city of dreams.
Hey guys and gals, and welcome to my Cyberpunk 2077 Achievement Hunters review. Now, before I start this video, I want to mention a few important things. This video will contain no story spoilers or major side mission spoilers. I have finished the story now, and I finished most of the side missions as well, but they're in depth to the point where if I speak about them in detail, it's going to ruin them for future people that decide to play this game. So I might make a separate video talking about the story, if this video does well. And I also wanted to say thank you for all the support on the Dying Light 2 review video. We managed to pull in just over 5 hours of watch time, and I'm just really surprised. Like, I didn't expect that video of all videos so far to be the one that starts doing well. Like, Dying Light 2's been out for a while, so is Cyberpunk as well, so like, but like, if you're interested, and you haven't watched the Dying Light 2 review, then that should pop up for you now. And I'm also going to be doing a follow-up video to that one, so if you're curious about Dying Light 2's story, then check that out when it drops as well. Anyway, that's all the boring stuff out of the way, so without further ado, let's chrome up and get straight into this review. Cyberpunk 2077. Night City is a place like no other. It's an open world, a city that truly feels alive, with bustling streets packed with residents going about their daily lives to back alley shootouts that just erupt at any given moment. Night City is truly unique. The city is split up into different districts, ranging from Haywood to the downtown Corpo Plaza to the Badlands outside the city limits. Each area is vastly different in its looks, style, atmosphere, and even gang control. The bright lights of the city attract all sorts of people like moths drawn to a flame, but Night City at its core is a dark and dingy cesspool of corruption, crime, and despair. Night City will take all a person has and more if they're not careful. With all the corruption and crime, the city police force struggles, and thus we come to the reason the violence is so common in this city. The police simply cannot keep up. In-game, you can easily be caught up in a random shootout and choose whether or not to get involved, flee the scene. It's up to you. You'll often see cordoned off areas where police are putting up victims into body bags or trauma teams loading up their clients to safety. And life never stops in Night City, but it can be ended with a bullet immediately on a daily basis. Gang control of the city is fairly tight, and each gang specialises in combat in different ways. You'll see these gangs and their members just out in the street regularly, and sometimes it'll be them who initiate the shootouts in the streets that I've just previously mentioned. Truly, CD Projekt Red have crafted a phenomenal open world with Night City. Its streets are alive and buzzing always, with something always happening. What helps this world feel even more real and lived in is how characters that V knows or is friendly with or working for will often contact you sometimes to talk jobs, or sometimes to forward story. But what's even better is you can just call these characters whenever you want to have what is nearly a genuine conversation. You could easily boot up Cyberpunk and just get lost in the streets and bright lights of Night City and just appreciate the place that you're in, that you're experiencing. Trust me, you'll understand what I mean if you played the game yourself. It pulls you in, and you just can't seem to want to leave ever. Night City may feel alive, but what good is a city with nothing to do? Thankfully, Night City has a few different side activities for you to enjoy while you're not pursuing the main story or just fancy getting lost in the world itself. Starting off, we have NCPD, Night City Police Department for short, hustles. With crime being so rampant, the police force cannot possibly keep up, so instead, they hire mercenaries such as V to do their job for them. These jobs are very easy to find, however, only appear on your map when you get within range of them. They vary a little bit too. Sometimes you're just stopping an assault in progress, sometimes you need to clear an area of enemies and grab any evidence needed to prove the crime, and other times you'll come across slightly larger groups of enemies that are defending a gang site and you need to clear the entire area to make it safer. Personally, I quite enjoy the NCPD scanner hustles. They usually don't take very long to complete, but there are like loads per city district, so you can't just blitz your way through them super fast. The next side activity we have are known simply as gigs. As a mercenary, if it pays, you'll do it. Each district of the city has its own unique fixer, and this fixer will have jobs for V to complete. These are more complex missions than the NCPD scanner hustles, and there are a few versions of these too. Sometimes you'll be sabotaging something, other times you'll need to kill a specific individual, sometimes you need to rescue someone, sometimes you'll be stealing something of value. Some gigs offer a bonus reward for remaining undetected, such as the thievery gigs or sometimes sabotage gigs. Fixers do have a limited amount of gigs that you can view when hovering over them in the map, and not all gigs are available to you from the get-go. You need to increase your street cred to unlock the later ones. This means that you can't just rush your way through the gigs, much like you can't rush through the NCPD scanner hustles. It paces the player, which means you really feel like, as you progress and improve, you're unlocking new things and can see you're getting stronger. While we're on the subject, I'll quickly explain what street cred is. In Night City, as a merc, reputation is everything. Your street cred is a representation of your reputation. Starts at level 1 and can go all the way to level 50. Street cred is needed for more than just unlocking new gigs too. You'll need higher street cred for the more powerful items in the game, such as cybernetics, certain weapons. Thankfully, you earn street cred for pretty much everything you do, so don't worry about finding the best way to level it up. Now, the next side activity we have are cyber psychos. Cyber psychos are people who have too much chrome and have usually gone insane. Your job in these side quests is to defeat the cyber psycho. Think of them as mini boss fights. There are a total of 17 cyber psychos in the game, so you'll definitely have your hands full with them, as some of them are seriously strong, but they are very satisfying to beat, and of course they'll get your street cred up in no time. The last side activity is actually what the game calls side missions. These missions aren't as shallow as the NCPD scanner hustles, but aren't big enough to be main missions either. However, these are what truly pull you into Night City. Some of the side missions in this game can span a multitude of missions, weaving their own small story alongside the main narrative, and you care about them. And some of them have a multitude of choices as well as endings to how they turn out. These are one of my favourite things about Cyberpunk. Through these missions, you really get to know the characters. You realise that no one in Night City is one layer deep, but that they're complex. They have a personality, goals, dreams, wants and needs. You also learn that your choices have consequences in these side missions, and it's not just the main narrative that matters, but these smaller stories too. Overall, Cyberpunk's side content is very good and very enjoyable. Some people may argue that the gigs and the NCPD scanner hustles are repetitive after a while, and I will be honest, I am starting to feel it a bit now as I'm mopping up the rest of my map, but the gameplay is really fun, and you can mix things up all the time, so it's very easy to not get sick of it. Speaking of gameplay, The gameplay in Cyberpunk 2077 is, for the most part, very good. I'm going to break this part of the video into sections. We'll cover gunplay, melee combat, stealth mechanics, and driving too. Starting off, we've got gunplay and the guns themselves. There are a variety of ranged weapons in the game that V can use in combat. Pistols, revolvers, shotguns, sniper rifles, assault rifles, submachine guns, heavy machine guns. These guns are then broken up into 3 categories: power weapons, tech weapons, and smart weapons. Power weapons can ricochet their bullets off of surfaces, tech weapons can be charged to shoot through even the most solid cover, and smart weapons can be used with a smart link to enable tracking rounds that follow your target. Personally, at the moment, I'm using a heavy machine gun, a shotgun, and then a revolver. The gunplay itself is great too. You can customize your weapons with sights and mods to tune them however you want, and Cyberpunk even has a cover system. Just move up to cover, and then when you aim, V will aim over the top of cover or around the edge of a wall. Whatever you use, you can actually engage in a firefight properly and not just sit behind a wall and occasionally walk out into the firing line just to fire a few shots, you know, like you do in Call of Duty. Of course, you can also just grab a 100 round heavy machine gun and just walk at your enemies as you mow them down, laughing manically. Whatever works. Next, we have melee combat and the melee weapons. Melee weapons are split into 2 groups, lethal and non-lethal. Now, there are implants that you can get that essentially turn your body into the weapon, one example being monowires, my personal favourite, but I haven't used all of them yet, so I may miss some weapons out. In terms of lethal weapons, we have knives, katanas, machetes, monowires, mantis blades. These are all lethal, so will kill your enemies and not subdue them. Personally, my favourite melee weapon is the katana, but my overall favourite, including implants, is the monowires. They're just really cool, and slicing up with like neon coloured wire that comes out of my hands is so fucking Nova. Like, it's so good. Blunt weapons, you've got hammers, baseball bats, gorilla arms, which is an implant, and batons too. Don't really use blunt weapons all that often because, like I said, I've got monowires. They're handy if you're trying not to kill someone or trying for a pacifist playthrough. Next up, we have the stealth gameplay, and it's actually not that bad. It's about what you'd expect. Enemies start to detect you when they see you, cover hides you. There are some quick hacks that are listed as covert that help with stealth, as well as some cyberware that can help you as well. So if you wanted to play as a stealth build, you definitely can. You have the option of taking down enemies lethally or non-lethally. There's not much of a difference in my opinion, but the choice is yours. And you can even hide bodies. Now, the vehicles in Cyberpunk are okay. A lot of them go very, very fast. But the driving in this game takes a lot of adjusting to. And the reason being, every single vehicle handles completely differently to another. And I think this is fine. It makes them all unique. But personally, I just stuck to the same handful of vehicles because I was accustomed to their handling. And I didn't really drive anything else. Finally, we have quick hacking, which is one of my favorite things to do in the game. I pretty much do it all the time during combat and in stealth. So quick hacking is essentially what it says on the tin. There are a variety of quick hacks available, from setting enemies on fire, to disabling their optics, to disabling their cyberware. You can use these mid-combat, as the game will slow down time for you to look at the enemies you want to hack. And it is really one of my favorite mechanics because there are so many options for so many scenarios. And mixing and matching them is just very fun. Like, there's no limit. You can do it in stealth, you can do it in combat, you can do it while shooting at someone. Like, the game does not bar you from using it at any time. The characters in Cyberpunk are absolutely top notch. To name off a quick few that I personally love, we've got Jackie Wells, Johnny Silverhand, Victor, Takemura, Panam, and that's just a few. Pretty much everyone you meet in Night Story has a story to tell, and they all serve a purpose as well. For example, Jackie is V's best friend. He's easily one of the most likable, funny, and chill characters in the game, and he's always there for you. Of course, not everyone you meet is out to be your friend, so the hostile characters are good too. I truly never knew sometimes who I could trust and who I couldn't, and that's a really unsettling feeling to have. It kept me on edge sometimes, not knowing which dialogue option to choose in certain situations, because I didn't know how much I could trust the people I'd be talking with. Overall, character design and the characters themselves are up there with The Witcher 3's characters, so in other words, CD Projekt Red nailed it. Cyberware is commonplace in 2077 and you can get chipped just like everyone else. There are a variety of Ripper docks you can visit for upgrades, ranging from a Sandevistan to Gorilla Arms or Monowire. There are also more basic cyberware options, such as better legs for better carrying capacity, or a hand implant to allow you to use smart weapons. One thing I will say about the later and better chrome you'll want is that it's very damn expensive, but I think that's okay. It gives the players something to work towards, and it's also realistic because these are high-tech implants we're talking about. It wouldn't make any sense if at level 15 you just walked into a Ripper dock and can afford monowires just immediately. I didn't want to add this section if I could help it, but I felt I had to just to let you all know that Cyberpunk 2077 is in fact not buggy at all, to be honest. I had a few minor issues, like pedestrians just standing in the middle of roads or the odd person floating on something, but other than that, I've had no game-breaking bugs whatsoever, and I've got over 2 days worth of playtime in the game now, so you should be safe to play Cyberpunk with minimal issues. If it helps, I am playing on an Xbox Series X in case that does end up making a difference. But in terms of bugs and glitches, the game is fine. Like, it runs fine, it runs well, there's no issues. Anybody that's still clamoring to Cyberpunk is a broken game in 2023 is just being daft. V is the main character of Cyberpunk 2077. Now, V is completely up to the player. Male or female, your choice. Street kid, nomad or corpo, your choice. The player gets every say in who V is because V is them. V is me or you. And while V is only a player insert, oddly, I care about them. I won't spoil the story in this video, so I won't go into detail, but what I mean is, V is a very interesting character all by themselves, even though they're just a player insert, and I think that's just credit to how good the writing is in the game. Moving on from V is everyone's favourite rocker boy, Johnny Silverhand, aka Keanu Reeves. Having Keanu with you throughout pretty much the entire game is so cool. And having Johnny question your choices, as well as try to influence them too, he's a great character. He's charismatic, but also a dickhead, but you can rely on him in a pinch. His design is also great, literally having a silver hand, and I love the rocker boy stuff too. I can't say too much here either, as Johnny is integral to the story, but having him with you, always commenting on things, and you choosing to either talk to him or ignore him, can lead to some funny dialogue as well as some helpful story explanation at certain junctures. Ultimately, he's one of the best characters I think I've ever met in a game, ever. I have a confession to make. I'm here from EDGERUNNERS. Back when Cyberpunk released, as much as I'd wanted to play it, I completely changed my mind when I saw how broken it was. However, a friend of mine bought me Cyberpunk a couple of weeks before Christmas, and I promised I'd watch EDGERUNNERS first and then wait until Christmas to play it. Not only did I watch one of the best animes I've ever seen, but I simultaneously fell in love with the world of Night City. EDGERUNNERS revived my excitement to play Cyberpunk, and when I booted it up and started playing, I've enjoyed every last second of it. If you haven't watched EDGERUNNERS and you're on the fence about Cyberpunk, or you love Cyberpunk and haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend it. It's only a 10 episode anime, and it's one of the best things I've ever watched. The achievements in Cyberpunk aren't too bad either. Most of them are pretty standard. There are a few more difficult ones, such as Gunslinger, shoot an enemy grenade in midair with a revolver, or Demon in the Shell, kill or incapacitate 3 enemies with 1 detonate grenade quick hack. There are also multiple endings to the story, each of which have their own achievement, but thankfully the game allows you to replay the final missions to get different endings. Only one ending is really missable that would require a complete new playthrough, rip me, but I won't spoil it here. Overall, Cyberpunk 2077 has some decent achievements, although I am disappointed that the game is only worth 1,000 game score. More and more games are doing this, which sucks, because you'd think an RPG like Cyberpunk would be worth double that because of how much time it takes to fully 100% it. I'm currently sitting at 56% completion, with just the other endings to do, the remaining side stuff, and some of the specific achievements I mentioned. Cyberpunk 2077 came out 2 years ago to awful reviews and harsh reception. After being rushed out in a poor state, 2 years later, I can easily tell you that the game is the best it has ever been, and if you've been thinking about getting it, I'd highly recommend it. Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the best games I've played in a long time. And that's a wrap on Cyberpunk 2077. This is by far my most ambitious video yet, especially with editing, so if you did enjoy, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this, as I make videos like this all the time. Anyways, much love guys, and I'll see you later my tunes.